Step back into the flickering glow of the 1970s, an era of cinematic daring where directors tossed out the rulebook and reveled in storytelling that was raw, strange, and unforgettable. You think you've seen it all? Think again. For every Jaws or Star Wars that lit up the big screen, there were hidden treasures buried just beneath the surface. Films that dared to color outside the lines and got lost in the noise of the blockbusters. And a few, they'll make you wonder how on earth the world forgot them. Let's press play. It's 1973, and the screen flickers to life with a story so sharp it could slice through steel. The Day of the Jackal isn't just a movie, it's a ticking time bomb of precision and paranoia. Think about this, a film where you know the target, you know the assassin, and yet every moment is laced with unbearable tension. How do you make a thriller like that work? Simple. You make it perfect. Frederick Forsyth's novel comes alive under the surgical direction of Fred Zinnemann. The story follows a nameless, faceless professional, a shadow among shadows, hired to do the unthinkable, assassinate Charles de Gaulle, the president of France. This isn't your typical smash-and-grab action flick. The Jackal doesn't charge in with guns blazing. No, his weapon is calm. His method is chillingly systematic. His greatest tool? Time. But here's where the genius kicks in. The film doesn't just let you sit back and watch. No, it pulls you into the hunt. The French police are on his trail, but they're always a step too slow, a beat behind. You feel their frustration. You feel the assassin's eerie confidence. And with every calculated move, the Jackal becomes something terrifying, inevitable. What makes it hit even harder is Edward Fox's performance as the Jackal. He doesn't play a villain. He plays a man with a job to do, a man so coldly efficient it leaves you questioning how much you should root for his success. And the finale? No explosions, no fiery shootouts, just a climax so tightly wound, so quietly devastating, that it leaves your pulse racing long after the credits roll. It's lean, it's unrelenting, and it dares to treat its audience like grown-ups. The Day of the Jackal is more than a hidden gem. It's a masterpiece of restraint, intelligence, and storytelling that proves suspense doesn't have to scream to keep you hooked. Some films don't just tell a story, they grip you by the throat and drag you through it. Sorcerer, released in 1977, it had the misfortune of going toe-to-toe with Star Wars, but let me tell you, this is a different kind of epic. One built on sweat, fear, and sheer desperation. The premise sounds simple enough. 4 men, stranded in a South American hellscape, are tasked with transporting volatile dynamite across 200 miles of unforgiving jungle. But here's the thing. The dynamite? It's old, unstable, one wrong bump, one shuddering breath, and boom. No heroes, no second chances, game over. Director William Friedkin, fresh off The Exorcist, swaps supernatural terror for a dread that feels all too real. Every frame drips with tension. The jungle becomes a living, breathing adversary, one moment suffocatingly still, the next howling with torrential rain that makes you feel like you're about to slide off the edge. And then there's the bridge scene. 2 ancient, rotting rope bridges suspended over raging rapids, and our characters have to guide their hulking, creaking trucks across them. Every plank groans under the weight. Every gust of wind sends the vehicles teetering. You'll find yourself holding your breath, as if that might help them make it to the other side. The performances are raw. Roy Scheider leads this motley crew of outcasts, criminals, fugitives, and desperate men, each carrying their own past like a boulder on their back. They don't trust each other. They don't have to. The jungle doesn't care who they are, and neither does fate. Sorcerer is chaos distilled, a symphony of dirt, sweat, and sheer survival instinct. It's a film that dares you to endure it and leaves you gasping for air when it's over. If you've never seen it, take the leap, but be warned, this isn't just a movie, it's a test. Sleuth, released in 1972, lures you in, masks its intentions, then yanks the rug so hard you're left gasping. This isn't just a thriller, it's a duel of wits, a venomous chess game where every move feels like life or death. At the center, 2 men, Andrew Wyke, a wealthy crime novelist with a penchant for elaborate games, and Milo Tyndall, a younger man who dares to intrude on Wyke's carefully curated world. But here's the catch. This isn't about love or revenge. It's about power. Psychological warfare waged with riddles, secrets, and a smirk that says, "You'll never see this coming." Olivier, as Wyke, oozes aristocratic arrogance, his words dripping like honey laced with poison. Kane, the scrappy underdog, fights back with raw intensity, delivering lines that cut deep. Watching them spar feels like watching predators circle each other, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And just when you think you've figured out the game, boom. A twist so audacious, so impeccably timed, it leaves you questioning everything you thought you knew. Every laugh hides a threat. Every clue feels like a trap. And the tension? It doesn't rise, it climbs, until it's suffocating. What makes Sleuth a masterpiece isn't just its sharp script or airtight pacing, it's the way it plays with you. The audience becomes part of the game, piecing together puzzles, second-guessing motives, and wondering who's really pulling the strings. By the end, you're not just watching a story, you've been tricked, and it's glorious. If you've never experienced Sleuth, do yourself a favor. Watch it with someone. But be warned, you might start to wonder if you're really on the same side, because this film doesn't just entertain, it infects, and it stays with you long after the final curtain falls. 3 Days of the Condor doesn't creep up on you, it strikes. One moment, you're immersed in the quiet hum of an unassuming CIA office, and the next, everyone is dead. The walls, once sterile and corporate, are stained with betrayal. And you're running for your life alongside a man who never signed up for any of this. Meet Joe Turner, played by Robert Redford. He's not a spy, not in the glamorous sense. He's a bookish analyst, a codebreaker buried in paperwork, piecing together obscure patterns from the safety of his desk. But the safety? It's a lie. When he steps out for lunch, the hit comes, swift, clinical, devastating. His colleagues are slaughtered, and Joe is suddenly the last man standing. Why? Who? Questions come fast, answers come slow. From that moment, the film grabs you and doesn't let go. Turner isn't a hardened operative. He's terrified, resourceful, and utterly alone. He can't trust the agency. He can't trust the system. The very machine that was supposed to protect him has turned predatory. Every phone call, every street corner, every stranger's face feels like a threat. And then there's Max von Sydow as Hubert, a hitman so cold, so eerily calm, he makes the hairs on your neck stand on end. He doesn't hunt with anger or passion. He hunts like it's routine, and that's what makes him terrifying. When he locks eyes with Turner, you feel it, that sinking weight of inevitability. Director Sidney Pollack creates a world where paranoia seeps into every shadow, every silence. Even the romance feels dangerous. Faye Dunaway's character? She's caught in the storm, a reluctant accomplice to Turner's desperate bid to survive. And the ending? It doesn't tie things up in a neat bow, it leaves you unsettled. You'll find yourself staring at the screen, asking the same question Turner does. How far does this go? This isn't just a thriller, it's a warning. 3 Days of the Condor dares you to look closer, to question everything, and to wonder, who's really watching? Lane Blacktop doesn't roar into your life. It hums, low and steady, like an engine idling before the storm. This isn't your typical road movie with flashy heroes or neat resolutions. No, it's stark, stripped down, and so real you can almost taste the dust in your teeth. The story? 2 nameless drifters, a driver and a mechanic, roam the endless highways in their souped-up '55 Chevy. They don't talk much. They don't need to. Their lives revolve around one thing: speed, winning, moving forward without ever looking back. But then, he shows up. Warren Oates as GTO, a man in a shiny, showroom-ready Pontiac, talking a mile a minute about things that don't add up. He's the opposite of everything the driver and mechanic stand for, yet somehow he becomes their rival, their foil, their unwelcome passenger on this existential drag race. But this isn't about who crosses the finish line first. No, it's about what's left when the race is over. Every mile of highway stretches the tension tighter. Every encounter, be it a fleeting love interest, a small-town diner, or a truck-stop gas pump, feels like a question. What are we chasing? And is it even there? Director Monty Hellman refuses to spoon-feed you answers. He keeps the dialogue sparse, the emotions buried deep, and the camera lingering on faces and landscapes that seem endless, empty, and yet full of something unspoken. You're not watching characters, you're living alongside them, caught in the same relentless rhythm. And the ending? It doesn't resolve. it dissolves. The film burns itself out, quite literally, leaving you stunned, staring at the screen and wondering, was this a race or a reckoning? Lane Blacktop is not for everyone. It doesn't shout for your attention. It dares you to lean in, to listen for the quiet truths revving beneath the surface. For those willing to take the ride, it's unforgettable. An ode to the open road, the pursuit of something undefined, and the freedom of getting lost. What if the greatest moment in human history never happened? That's the gut punch Capricorn One delivers right out of the gate. The film takes a bold premise, a faked Mars landing, and spins it into a relentless, white-knuckle thriller where every turn feels like a step deeper into the abyss. It starts with a moment of triumph. Astronauts prepping to make history as the first humans to set foot on Mars. But then, stop. They're pulled from the shuttle at the last second, whisked away to a secret location, and told the horrifying truth. The mission is doomed. Technical failures mean the crew would never survive, and NASA can't afford to fail. The solution? A staged landing, a massive lie broadcast to millions, all for the sake of keeping hope alive. But lies have a cost, and this one spirals out of control fast. The astronauts, played by James Brolin, Sam Waterston, and O.J. Simpson, are reluctantly roped into the scheme. They stand in front of cameras, reciting scripted lines about the Martian surface, all while knowing they're puppets in a game far bigger and far deadlier than they ever imagined. Because here's the catch. Dead men don't talk. When the empty spacecraft burns up on re-entry, the astronauts suddenly realize they're expendable. From that moment, the chase is on. The trio escapes into the harsh desert, pursued by helicopters that hover like vultures. Every roar of the blades, every shimmer of heat on the horizon brings the threat closer. Meanwhile, Elliot Gould's dogged reporter digs deeper into the cover-up, uncovering a conspiracy so vast it feels impossible, until it's not. Capricorn One doesn't just entertain, it unearths something primal. The fear of betrayal by the institutions we trust, the desperation to survive when every odd is stacked against you, and the gnawing question, how far would they go to protect the lie? This is more than a sci-fi thriller, it's a warning shot, a story that leaves you breathless, questioning everything, and wondering if the truth is ever as simple as it seems. Three Women. Robert Altman invites you into a hazy, sun-drenched world where nothing is as it seems, and identity itself feels like sand slipping through your fingers. The story unfolds like a mirage, beautiful, eerie, and impossible to pin down. At the heart of it, there's Millie, charming, confident Millie, or so she thinks. Played with haunting precision by Shelley Duvall, Millie floats through life, believing she's the epitome of cool. But here's the catch. No one is listening. Her friends, they ignore her. Her coworkers, they mock her. Her world is an echo chamber of polite indifference, and she doesn't even hear it. Enter Pinky, played by Sissy Spacek, a young woman with wide eyes and a childlike innocence that feels off. She idolizes Millie at first, attaching herself like a shadow, but as their lives entangle, something shifts. Pinky begins to mimic Millie's habits, her words, even her confidence. And just as you start to think you understand their dynamic, everything fractures. Then there's Willie, the silent artist. Her murals, splashed across the walls of an empty desert town, are unsettling, a swirl of mythic figures locked in a battle no one can explain. She doesn't say much, but her presence looms large, like a storm on the horizon. Altman doesn't hold your hand here. He lets you drift, piecing together clues as the women's lives bleed into one another. Identities swap, roles reverse, and by the time it's over, you're left questioning. Did any of it actually happen? Three Women isn't about answers. It's about the journey. It's surreal, hypnotic, and deeply unsettling, leaving you with the unshakable feeling that you've seen something secret, something you can't quite name. And that is its power. If these movie picks are sparking some nostalgia, or even introducing you to hidden classics, why not keep the journey going? Hit that like button if you're loving this dive into cinematic history, and don't forget to subscribe to Vintage Verse. Here, it's always about rediscovering the films, moments, and stories that shaped us. There's a reason Days of Heaven feels like a memory you never lived. It's a painting in motion, a golden haze that seeps into your bones. Every frame burns with quiet beauty, every moment carrying the weight of something unspoken. And underneath it all, tragedy waits. Bill, played by Richard Gere, is on the run. Work's dried up, tempers have flared, and mistakes have been made. He takes his lover Abby and his little sister to the wide, open plains of Texas, where the land stretches to eternity and the sun feels closer than the sky. They find work on a farm owned by a young, terminally ill man. Here's the twist. The farmer thinks Abby is Bill's sister, and he falls in love with her. Bill sees an opportunity. Marry the farmer, inherit his fortune, and escape poverty forever. It's a plan, a dangerous one, because nothing stays simple in a place where beauty feels too perfect and silence feels like a warning. Terrence Malick's lens turns the everyday into the extraordinary. Wheat fields ripple like gold rivers. Dust swirls in the air like whispered secrets. The light, it's always soft, achingly perfect, as though the world is giving you one final look before it crumbles, and crumble it does. When the farmer starts to suspect, the tension burns hotter than the sun. Passions flare, violence erupts, and as the fields burst into flames, literally, you're left breathless, unable to look away. Days of Heaven isn't a story about right or wrong. It's about people caught in a storm of their own making, one they can't outrun. The beauty makes the pain sharper, and the silence, that's where the heartbreak lives. By the end, it lingers, like smoke in the air, long after the fire has died. They say the truth sets you free, but in the Parallax View, the truth doesn't just trap you, it destroys you. Directed by Alan J. Pakula, this 1974 thriller doesn't ask questions. It throws you straight into a nightmare that feels too close to real life. It all begins with a political assassination. The crowd screams. Chaos erupts, and then silence. The killer's gone, the story neatly wrapped up, but something doesn't fit. 3 years later, the witnesses start dying, one by one. Accidents, they say, coincidences. But a journalist, played by Warren Beatty, knows better, and so he digs. What he uncovers is a labyrinth of paranoia, a secret so massive it feels impossible to touch. There's a corporation, the Parallax Corporation, pulling strings from the shadows, recruiting people, creating killers. But here's the part that'll make your stomach drop. They're everywhere. Smiling faces, empty words. A system so vast and precise, you don't even see it until it's too late. The movie doesn't offer answers. Instead, it leans into a slow, suffocating dread. You watch Beatty's character scramble, piece together clues, and get closer to the truth, only for the walls to close in tighter and tighter. You feel it happening. It's not just suspense, it's suffocation. And the visuals? Stunning. Stark shadows and cold, sterile buildings, the kind of spaces that feel indifferent to your existence. Pakula makes every shot deliberate, every moment heavy with purpose. By the end, as the credits roll, you realize the scariest thing of all. The system always wins. You don't leave the Parallax View feeling safe or comforted. You leave with the realization that sometimes there's no escape. Violence. It doesn't start as an explosion. It creeps in, quietly, slowly, until one day it's there, unstoppable, unrelenting, and staring you dead in the face. In Sam Peckinpah's Straw Dogs, 1971, the fuse burns agonizingly slow, and then everything ignites. Dustin Hoffman plays David, a timid American mathematician who moves to his wife's rural English hometown, searching for peace. But this isn't a place for peace. It's a breeding ground for tension, hidden in the looks, the laughs, the unsaid words. You can feel it building like pressure under a lid. The locals? They're restless. Men who smirk too long, linger too close, and push boundaries until they're gone. David, quiet, non-confrontational, tries to ignore it, to back away. But there's only so much a man can take. When the violence finally erupts, it's brutal. Peckinpah doesn't shy away. He forces you to look at it, to question it. Is it justified? Is it madness? And here's where it gets chilling. What would you do? Because at its core, Straw Dogs is about survival. The animal instinct that lives inside us all. You might think you know yourself, think you're civil, composed, but when your back is against the wall, when your home is invaded and everything you love is threatened, who do you become? The movie feels primal, like a gut punch that lingers. Peckinpah doesn't give you clean heroes or villains. There's only chaos, messy, uncomfortable, real. Hoffman's transformation is haunting, his quiet breaking point a moment you'll never forget. By the time the dust settles, you're left breathless, shaken, and questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself. This isn't just a thriller, it's a mirror, and what it reflects back, that's what'll haunt you the most. If these hidden gems sparked something in you, a flicker of curiosity, a craving for more, don't stop here. The universe of vintage cinema is endless, and at Vintageverse, we're just scratching the surface. Movies that time forgot, stories that demand to be seen, moments that still leave us speechless, they're all waiting. And trust me, the next discovery might just become your new obsession. So, if you haven't already, hit subscribe. Join a growing world of film lovers who know that old doesn't mean forgotten. Let's dive deeper into the strange, the beautiful, the overlooked. And hey, drop a comment. What's your favorite hidden treasure? Share it, because every great movie deserves an audience. Thanks for watching Vintageverse, where the past isn't just remembered, it's reborn. See you in the next one.